All right. Hi, it's Celia Contreras here. This is Surviving with Celia. We have to my right Eric Biggs and our guest today, Rebecca Trent, who is the owner of Creek in the Cave.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about a number of things, but also
Okay.
I'm excited because it's a lot of shit I've been meaning to ask you, but never feels like the right
All
time.
right, now this feels like a setup. Go ahead.
No, that's later. So I know you ran, have you always been the owner? Are you the creator of Creek in the Cave?
I bought the Creek in the Cave as a turnkey in August of 2006, but the space was mostly like a dive bar that did like reggaeton parties and stuff.
Oh, okay.
They didn't really have comedy or theater or anything like that.
So was that your idea to turn it into a comedy club?
Yeah, so when I bought the space, I found the space as part of a theater group, and the theater group was doing performances downstairs. When I bought the space and took it over, one of the stipulations of the purchase was that we were going to move the performance space to upstairs, and then it was going to be sort of delivered to us with a stage set and ready to go for what became the Creek in the Cave upstairs. I ran a theater company out of the space for a year or two, and then by December of 2007, I'd bought out my two business partners, and by January of 2008, we had started doing comedy every day.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So that's when it became like really a stand-up comedy club. We did a mix of stand-up and improv, and then by 2010 we were doing almost exclusively stand-up and working with some of today's most incredible stand-up comedians.
Fuck yeah. And also, if I recall, it used to be in New York, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So we started in Long Island City, Queens, and New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what made you bring it to Austin?
Well, I lost the space during the pandemic, and there were some folks who said they wanted to start one down here, so I came down here.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm going to say that a lot.
Yeah.
Also, you're allowed to talk too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you were the first real club to move down here.
Right.
Kind of struck oil. I mean, was it just people kind of talking about it, or had you ever thought before about leaving New York? I mean,
No,
New
never.
York's because it's such a huge scene for comedy.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of the
Well,
best spot.
Also, I was in a very unique position in the space that I was in. I really loved my neighborhood and was very much a part of that community. I was a member of the community board there for almost a decade, and ran a restaurant association for the neighborhood. I knew all of the restaurant owners. The Creek in the Cave in New York was also a California-style Mexican restaurant that sat 22 people upstairs, and then had a patio downstairs that sat 48. So we weren't exclusive. Like we really the Creek itself survived off of the restaurant. The restaurant was the premier part of what we did as far as revenue stream went, because the theater itself, we very rarely charged a ticket a cover price, and and by rarely I mean like it was maybe twice a year if ever.
Oh wow.
And then and we also made sure that there was no barking, no bringer shows, none of that sort of like weird stuff that comics sometimes have to deal with when they're on the come up. We tried to eliminate all of those things and just create an environment that was conducive to writing and creation. We tried to be supportive of sketch and improv as well as stand-up comedy. All forms of comedy all feed each other, and we were and you know it's a big, and it still is, like I'm saying it in past tense, but I'm just talking about the sort of New York iteration. And when I say we, I'm talking about people like Sean Patton, John F. O'Donnell, Donald Glover, the folks at the beginning that were around, that were doing stand-up, that were super serious and working really hard, like Mike Lawrence and Subha Garwal. Michael Che was there all the time. Like it was that kind of like a vibe. And so we had people that, I mean, up until really the very end, there were folks that were legitimately just using a spot in my restaurant to just sit and write TV shows that ended up on Showtime and HBO
That's
Max
awesome.
and stuff. And so so it really was a good sort of oasis of creation and place where people could do stuff and not have to like be stressed about a revenue stream. Like we just all sort of like shook our hands and agreed we weren't going to make any money at it and just did our best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of those just let all the cool stuff get popular and rise, and that's one of the things I'm a big fan of Creek, because it seems like there's always something cool kind of going on. It seems that you guys have done a good job over there of kind of setting the tone for what all the other clubs in Austin do, for the most part, of trying to be very like comic oriented for the most part.
Well, hopefully at the end of the day, what most of the clubs do is that they find the funny. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what kind of comedy it is. Did you make people laugh? Were you funny?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and there's certainly, you know, more finesse and nuance to it, and there's conversations that can be held about different kinds of comedy and the different values of the different kinds of comedy. But really, at the end of the day, when you boil it down to low gravy, we're really just talking about whether something was funny or not.
Yeah.
And I find humor in the bizarre and the maudlin and the uncomfortable, and I love dad jokes and I love street jokes and I love corny humor and I love stuff that is thought-provoking and makes me want to go throw a Molotov cocktail through a building or anything. Like, comedy is amazing. Comedy is supposed to make you cry laughing, and it's supposed to incite you to riot. You know, I mean, that's just part of the beauty of what we get to work with.
That's why you book me. Yeah, I'm excited because both Creek and the Cave and Roscoe's were all like, yeah, we like you. Whereas in Arizona, it was all like, so you're a talented writer, maybe you could write things that don't upset people and that are clean and happy.
Yeah, I don't really see a lot of value in that, unless your goal is to be
like family friendly. Or...
No, I was going to say rich. Yeah, I mean, employed, rich, on a cruise ship ever in your life. You know, there's value in that. Yeah. You absolutely should, as a comedian, if you're going to be a well-rounded comic, which you should be, you should have a clean set. I should be able to go like, okay, but what's your type 5 you're going to put on television? It's got to get past S&P. And if you can't get, you can't get past S&P with like dead baby jokes. I mean, I wish you could. I think they're hilarious, but that's not the point. The point is that eventually you want to be paid at it. So you have to learn how to do all the things. You can't just do the one thing. You do the one thing, you keep pushing that one button, eventually the money's going to run out, even if it's a good money button. And they aren't all good money buttons, you know?
I have 5 minutes clean. I just don't like using it.
I mean, if it's in the right environment, you will, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's a good 5, kids, and if you hate your 5, then get a new 5.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah. So you and like a lot of your staff are involved with Skankfest.
Well, I'm one of 3 owners of Skankfest, yeah.
Oh, shit, you own it, too?
Yeah, Christine and Lewis and I created it in my living room.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So cool. I like history and I love
comedy. It started at the Creek. Our first headliner was Doug Stanhope. He went on stage and read parts of Digging Up Mother, which was a book that he had published, I think, the year prior, maybe that year. Hilarious. And it's the story of his mom passing, like him sort of like coping with, or the book was him coping with his mom passing away. And there's this great picture of Doug in one of his like fabulous suits with a fat fucking tie, just laying down next to a phone booth and a pile of trash bags. That's out front of the Creek. It's next to the Creek.
Oh, that's
so like whenever I see it, it just like a warm little spot in my heart. But yeah, we started that. There's some argument in a parallel universe. I swear we started in 2015, but apparently we started in 2016, and it was awesome. We did 2 years in Long Island City. We did 2 years in Brooklyn, and then 1 year in Houston. That was in the before times. Then the pandemic. Then 1 year in Houston. Then we are now on our 3rd year in Vegas.
Yay. And I've been to 2 of those years so far.
Yeah.
And I plan on being at the 3rd one. I'll buy a ticket if I have to. I guess I could volunteer, but I am a useless worker.
Yeah, I wouldn't accept you as a volunteer.
That is perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, it's not for you, it's for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Also fair. All right, so you're one of the owners of Skankfest, one of the owners of Creek. Like, just surviving in the comedy world, like, what advice would you give to comics or people who would want to start a comedy club?
Well, I'm going to steal Colin Quinn's advice, the advice that I heard him give to young comics. And I think I might have been one of the corn dogs that was like, if you have any advice, what would you say? But he said, record and listen to every set that you ever do. It's not enough to record it. A lot of people record it, but don't listen to it. It's like going to the grocery store and buying a bag of salad and then letting it rot in your refrigerator and not eating it. That does not equate to vitamins or eating healthy. It just equates to throwing away a bag of salad, right? So your recordings are a bag of salad if you don't listen to them, right?
Yeah.
So you have to listen to everything. And then you, even when you don't want to, and this is not in any way a permission for partying, this is about networking, but you go to every party you're invited to.
Yeah.
Right? Every time a club invites you to do something, every time a booker invites you to do something, every time you're asked to break bread with someone, you remember those days. I had a manager hit me up just out of the blue. It actually happens to be Colin Quinn's manager too, but it was about a different client. Brian Stern hit me up random, just out of the blue, and he was like, I think he's talking about you, and he sent me a clip of Omid Dajili doing a set about this crazy woman in this weird spot in Queens that forced him to go on stage in front of 0 people. And it was this story, and what he didn't tell at the end of the story, but I think the reason why the story really stuck out for him was that night we ended up going up to my apartment, and every year I make a seafood stuffing for Thanksgiving, and it was right before Thanksgiving. So every year, the night before Thanksgiving or 2 nights before Thanksgiving, I usually do a big pot of lobster and use the stock for the stuffing for the Thanksgiving stuffing.
Okay.
So we ate. I mean, I think we probably ate like between him, me, and Brian. I think the 3 of us ate like 7 lobsters, something like that. It was like crazy. It was definitely like it was awesome. It was so much fun. But we ate as much as we wanted to and still had lobster left over. And then we went downstairs and shared it with other people because we don't have to, but like it was one of those things back then where like every once in a while you'd hit like a crazy deal at like Restaurant Depot or something. Like we would do like fun parties and stuff like that every once in a while. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, you say yes to everything. You break bread with everyone. I try to be good about that too. Like, cause I'm more of a homebody, especially since everybody started working from home remotely and all of that, you know? Yeah. So like there's definitely times where I have to force myself to go out, but I've lately, like in the last like 3 or 4 months, found myself saying yes and like going out at like 10 or 11 at night, which is, I think, an accomplishment. So
yeah, I think that is the hardest time to leave the house, but it is the most important for like doing comedy kind of stuff.
To get that last leg.
Yeah, because it's like that's when the final hangout happens. Exactly. You talk to the guy, like, but it is the hardest if it's like,
and it's when your guys' night's over and we're all like it's funny. Like I find myself waiting for the last hour of the Creek more than anything.
Yeah,
I almost like one of the gripes that I have about Austin is that the scene isn't allowed to stay. Bars can't stay open until 4, right? In New York, you can. So I wish that we could, because there would be like one more round of shows. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the Comedy Cellar has like your last spot can be after 1 a.m.
Yeah,
but that's not really like the case here. You can, but then you literally have to turn the lights out as like the audience is walking out the door, which feels super weird, and you don't get to have a nightcap with your friends. And so.
Yeah. And I don't know if you do this every year. I also, I didn't know you guys did it because I'm new to Austin. Like, I think I've been here like 7 months. But you have a Thanksgiving and Christmas party for the orphan comics and stuff.
For sure. So we've been doing that since I started hanging out at the Creek, which would have been like 2005 or 6, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super cool.
The height, we did 7 turkeys one year. Some were fried, some were roasted. I used my apartment upstairs, the coffee shop next door, Sweet Leaf, the Creek in the Caves restaurant kitchen, and then my friend Sheila Lewandowski, who lived down the block, I used her kitchen with her convection oven. So I had 4 separate spaces. We cooked for 75 people. As people were walking down the street, we were just literally, the only time we ever barked people was barking them in for Thanksgiving dinner. And like and we did, there was one year in particular, like a couple of like kind of like crust punks came in, and we were like, no, absolutely, come eat, you know. And it's just like, it's a lot of it's one of those things, like the entire theater gets taken over. It's so warm because like everybody's there and all the food's coming out, and it's just tray after tray of delicious food, and we make sure that we made enough so that there were leftovers. And then the next day after, I would make in one of our giant like 40 quarters or 80 quarters, like the big one we did the beans in, I would do a huge Thanksgiving stew, and I would shred down all the turkey. I would throw in, like all of the creamed corn that was left over, and all of the mac and cheese and some of the stuffing. Well, there's never any mac and cheese left over. I'm lying. Hannah Harkness made the mac and cheese every year. Yeah. And she put truffle oil in it, and it was so fucking good. I can't even eat cheese, and I would eat it. I would get so sick the next day, but it was so good. So basically I would make a stew, and just the stew had everything in it. It had the green bean casserole. It had, I would even put like a little tiny bit of sweet potatoes in it. You know what I mean? Just like, cause a little sweetness in the stew isn't a bad thing. And we would eat off of that. I would feed the open micers and the staff and myself. And I personally would eat off of it for like 2 weeks. I'm sure everybody else got sick of it sooner, but it was one of my favorites. And Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. It was, as a military brat, it's a really big deal. That one was nothing was ever the same in my household growing up as in my childhood, but the recipes were all the same. Yeah. The food was pretty much all the same. There were some years, like when we lived in Germany, where we couldn't get certain ingredients, but for the most part, we had the same thing every year. So that's also selfishly part of the reason why I don't make Thanksgiving as much of a potluck as I could, because like I want my stuffing, and I want my collard greens, and I want my cream corn. And
want it done right. Yeah.
I want, it's a way for me to remember my great grandparents and my grandparents. And there's a Grimsley gravy that we make, and some Southern tradition stuff that we do in my family that a lot of other families don't do, particularly New York Thanksgivings. Like a lot of the New Yorkers are like, what the fuck is this? You know? So yeah. But yeah, so Thanksgiving was a big deal. It still is. I didn't do it the very first year that I was here, mostly because I didn't want people to think that I was coming in and like telling everybody how to celebrate and what to do and where to be. And I really felt like, the folks that had been more established in the scene should be the ones that are welcoming the young people. And then I sort of realized that wasn't happening at all. So I was like, whatever, I'm just going to do it from now on. Yeah. So.
No, that's cool, because like I have a contentious relationship on and off again with my family, but I didn't talk to them for 4 years. Like some of that started before I moved to do comedy. Yeah. And like I think 2 years of me not really talking to them, I just mentioned them like, I'm moving to Phoenix to pursue comedy. And they're like, you're a fucking idiot. It's like, okay. But like I went from like not having anywhere to go Thanksgiving and Christmas, and when I moved here, I didn't know that you did that. Oh. So like I asked my friend, like as he's like driving me to the train, like to the shuttle that's gonna take me to the train, because I decided to take the train here because I thought it'd be cool. And also I wanted to bring my katanas with me, but I forgot them. So at some point I have to drive back here with my katanas.
When you say here, you mean Phoenix?
Yeah, well, from Phoenix. I've been going back there more than I thought. But like when my friend Hector's driving me over, to get to Austin, I'm like, Hector, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, can I spend Thanksgiving with you and your family? Because he lives in Pecos, Texas, and I didn't think I'd be able to afford to get to Phoenix for a while. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And I didn't know if anybody here would like me. So I'm like, what if they don't like me? And he's like, you'll be fine. And he's like, but yes, you can spend Thanksgiving with us.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And then I got invited back for Christmas, so that was cool, and I had shows. But now that I know that there's a celebration here, I do want to check it out here. Yeah, because I'll get FOMO sometimes, and I'm like, I should be at this. But so you mentioned being a military brat. What was that like? Because I imagine you had to move and change schools a lot, or
yeah. So this was my 37th move. I don't know. It's been a lot. I lived in Germany when the wall was falling, in Berlin. So I lived in Berlin when the wall fell. I lived in Southern Virginia, Northern Virginia, Eastern Virginia, Western Virginia. So a lot of spots. That's where my immediate and second generational family is from. Okay. So we were able to get a lot of stations there. Like my dad was stationed in Fort Belvoir, so we were in Northern Virginia. He was stationed at Fort Monroe, so we were in the Hampton Roads area, near the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. And then and that's where my both sets of my grandparents and one set of great grandparents lived in that area. And I after it was up to me, I went to college in Radford University in Southwest Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains. And then I moved to D.C. I did 2 years of what my family considered community service, giving back. I worked for a nonprofit organization called City at Peace that worked with 13 and 19-year-olds using theater and nonviolent conflict resolution to teach cross-cultural understanding and multiculturalism to kids that ran the gamut of the socioeconomic background in the DC metro area. So we had people that went to the same school Chelsea Clinton went to, and we had people that went to schools in like Anacostia in DC, which is one of the rougher neighborhoods. And we even had a couple of kids that would come down from Baltimore every once in a while, but they weren't there as regularly as we would want them to be. And what we would do is we'd have them come together, tell the story of their lives, and we would create a musical about their lives that we would perform, that would be performed at and I don't mean that lightly. Like the people that worked in the music with them were like Grammy award winning, brilliant, internationally known, the kind of people who can walk in a door and throw a pencil in your face and say, y'all don't know how much they pay me in Paris, and fucking storm out. Like we're talking like brilliant minds inside of the music world. And one of my favorite human beings on the planet, his name is E. Marcus Harper. E. Marcus was also a art attaché for the Obama administration, and I think going into the Biden administration, but I'm not entirely sure. He's an incredible person. We got to work together on City of Peace for 2 years, maybe almost 3. And then after DC, I moved on to New York, which is where I always wanted to live. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm so glad you're a guest on this. I'm learning so much. This is awesome. But that was the other thing, like surviving. Like we'll go back to like surviving during the pandemic. Actually, yeah. What the fuck did you do during the pandemic? Like when they started closing everything down?
Well, I lost my entire staff. Left. I was down to one employee. She was incredible, sweet. I just got to see her in December. And she was my head bartender. She became my chef, and I answered the phone and packaged the deliveries and did the deliveries. And we also had a window in the front where we were selling drinks out, and we just tried to make as much money as we could. But the truth is that we weren't doing high enough volume to buy the big cases of stuff. So our food costs immediately went up because stuff was rotting. We had to throw things away. Our food costs immediately went up. I was delivering with my car, going around the neighborhood, but everybody was out on the street. So I was walking down, there were times when it didn't make sense. There were so many people walking, I couldn't even drive around the neighborhood. I would have to literally run block to block to block. And we weren't really making money at it. So I was like, okay, let's just be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We started doing stand-up shows, and Michael Che started doing stand-up shows that I was producing for him in a parking lot about 6 blocks away from the creek in Long Island City. So we started producing those and was kind of keeping the creek open, and I was keeping her paid, and every once in a while, my old delivery guy, some people would come back and do a day's worth of work, and then they would go back and people had the nerve to we were going through and dealing with inspectors still and dealing with that kind of stuff too, even on top of that. So we were dealing, and the precincts, that 108 is the one that's in my neighborhood, came to me and respectfully asked me, even though it was within my rights, to not set up outdoor dining for my space, which technically maybe could have saved my restaurant. Yeah. But I was facing a street called Jackson Avenue, and Jackson Avenue has a main thoroughfare to Brooklyn, which is the Pulaski Bridge, and the 18-wheelers were being routed to make the turn in front of mine, and if I had put any kind of a structure there, it would have been destroyed constantly. The trucks would have hit it. Like, especially at night. Like, I'm not really so much concerned about people being in them, like, safety wise, but especially at night, and just sort of the idea of knowing that I was going to have to do a constant rebuild. It was going to be a constant fight, and the cops had already, like, the neighborhood cops, the beat cops had already come to me and been like, please don't do it. So like, I was just like, fuck it, I won't. And so so we pulled the pinball machines outside so people could still play pinball. We had this stuff but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And they recommend that restaurants in New York have enough money in their savings to run for a year and a half after, which is insane. I don't know any owners or I don't know anybody that has that, right? This is sort of like hindsight knowledge that they've started throwing out since the pandemic happened, and it's like, oh really? You think we're supposed to fuck off, dude?
In case they do it again.
Yeah, right, whatever. So they want like so I'm like so basically like I had to make a decision. My landlords made it really clear that they were ready to move on. And I had already lost my kitchen staff, which was the backbone of the operation. I could have maybe gotten one or two of them back and built back in and like figured something out, because these folks also, like, Victor, Aldo, and Moriano in particular, those guys were with the Creek and the Cave from its inception. Like we're talking about from before I bought it. So we're talking about like from the blackout from 2001. 2002, whenever that was. So these guys, like, they didn't want to leave, but they have, they got to feed their family, So I maybe could have gotten a couple of them back. I maybe could have like fought through it, but knowing that the landlords were ready for me to move on, I was delivering Postmates. So we were talking about also like me trying to sort of like get started back up without any overhead and with a 30-day rollover lease. You know what I mean? Realistically, they would have kicked me out by now anyway. Yeah. So there was just no reason for me to try and stay. And I was just going to pivot. I was like, well, I know I can waitress. I know, like, what are my other skill sets? What can I do? Because there weren't any job offerings. Like, nobody was coming through. People were whispering about stuff, and nothing came through. And I mean, for months. So this fucking kid that I didn't know called me out of the blue, DM'd me, I think, on Insta or something, and was like, hey, I listened to Legion of Skanks, and I heard you on the podcast say that you're closing the Creek, because the Legion of Skanks came back for the last 2 weeks and did their podcast out of the space. And they were like, and I was like, and they said, if I got the money together, would you consider coming down to Austin? And I like went, sure, yeah, if you get the fucking $500,000 together, sure. Yeah. And then I kind of rolled my eyes and like went on to like deliver my Instacart delivery or whatever I was doing that day. And this fucking kid came up with, he found a couple of investors and came up with a thing. And, he's not with us anymore, but
he's not with us, like.
He's alive.
Okay. Just checking. Sorry.
Yes. He's shuffled off this Austin coil. Yeah, no, he's not with the operation anymore, but it turned out to be more of a luck thing than a plan thing, to really kind of like answer that. No, it was never really in the sights that I was going to come down here, but surviving the pandemic required a tremendous amount of pivoting, what I mean? And that's all I did. I spent, I was in the DR the week before everything shut down. And when I landed, I got some information from some people that led me to believe that this was going to be really fucking catastrophic. And so, like, I was maybe a little bit more prepared than the average bar owner. You know what I mean? Like, I also knew there was something very ominous too about the lockdown starting on St. Patrick's Day that I was like, oh, that's like an extra fuck you to all of us. I get it. You know what I mean? So let's flatten that curve. Yeah.
I don't remember if Arizona closed on the same day or if it was like all, but I know when it was official and they're like, yeah, no. Because they were doing it like by city in Arizona too.
Well, like, Arizona is also a very independently run county by county, so
it is.
So
Coconino
getting
shut the
any
fuck
kind
down.
of a consensus in that state must be a fucking act. It must be impossible.
It is. Like, there were like factions and resistance.
I'm sure.
Like
I mean, and honestly, there was resistance everywhere. It was the awful thing that none of us really wanted to do, so we resisted it. But I will be honest. Favorite time of my life in New York driving? I didn't see a red light. I didn't run.
Yep.
The cops were waving to us as we were going through intersections. Nobody gave a shit. Yeah. We were driving fucking 90 miles an hour going over the George Washington. It was amazing. Yeah. The amount of the vanilla sky experience of going through Times Square. I was walking through Times Square with an open bottle of champagne, just drinking it, walking around, looking, and like, Elmo isn't even here. Fuck, this must be serious. Like, there was just nothing. I mean, there was nothing going on. It was such a crazy, weird adult candy store, you know what I mean? And also, like, at that time, I knew people that were also like, you know, kind of like living out of trap houses and doing some like underground shit, and there were like these weird weed parties going on and all this weird shit. And let it be known that my ass did not contract COVID-19 until I came to South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And I didn't like the first year. I thought I was free and clear, and then I got it right when all those fucking boosters started coming out.
Yeah.
They were, and I got clipped, and it knocked me on my ass for about 3 weeks.
See, I got sick multiple times during the pandemic, but none of the times it was COVID. And one of, like, also part of during the pandemic, I was staying at the homeless shelter, which, since there's so many people there, and then we got a huge tent city and everything, I felt beautiful there. A lot of people hit on you. I think it's just because I look like a mattress.
You're a homeless shelter 10.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. That's a good scale.
I think that's what it is.
You really think it's just because you're smushy?
I am pretty squishy.
You are pretty smushy.
Yeah. Freakishly soft skin too.
Well, it is pretty soft.
I've given so many great hand jobs.
There's all those natural oils coming out of you.
Hey, that's depression.
That's depression.
Seeping through your
tears,
pores.
Woman. I'm crying.
I cry through my skin.
That is so creepy.
Yeah. I just call that sweat.
That's what we call it.
Yeah, I mean, you know. It's just me crying while I try to walk up a flight of stairs. I'm just fuck.
Yeah, it was cool in Arizona because all the wildlife started coming out because everybody got a day drink and be on unemployment. I was the one idiot who got an essential job, but I wanted to die.
I was essential, but I don't think that they really stopped bar owners from drinking during the day. So I was essential, but I don't know if I could have spelled it backwards.
Yeah. Oh no, like my last couple months at the Circle K I worked at, because I'd close the from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. I can close to stock the freezer and stuff. I was straight up stealing 40s. And
oh wow.
Yeah, I wasn't drinking them on the premises for the record, but
you were relocating them.
Yeah.
And I get that.
The thing is, the day they said that we are no longer getting the essential hazard pay because we were getting an extra $4 an hour, but the same day that they said so it's the crisis is almost over, so
regular pay.
Yeah, but the same day it's also you're required to wear a mask now. And I'm that kind of suggests that the threat isn't fucking over, doesn't it?
Wow. That's
and when they
funny.
did that, I'm all right. But I'd all my friends would be texting each other, and I'd be at work just all okay, which scratcher do you want? It's the 777s, and I'm it says we're out of the 777s. It's all what is the number in the corner? I can't see. There's an X through it. That's because we're out of those. Pick a different one. It's what other $10 scratchers do you have?
Where was this, Arizona?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was North Phoenix too, which is it's interesting. But no,
the pandemic definitely didn't make anybody's IQ go up.
No.
So, I imagine that it must have been difficult to deal with people
also,
in general.
Arizona, we were 50th in education for 4 years running, and we were proud of that.
Well, I mean, at least you're consistent.
Yeah. Dude, everybody freaked out when we became a blue state. And they're what does this mean? It's all I blame the pandemic. And it's what? Oh, that was actually a working theory in Arizona. That we got the shots, and that's what made us vote for Biden. And one guy at Circle K, it's all this is happening because Joe Biden fucked a bat, right? Wow. Did you want a bag for your alcohol? And he's what's the fucking point? Grabs it.
People know that That like there's a plant, like Apple has a plant in Wuhan. You know what I mean? Like there's like a whole there were so many Americans in Wuhan at the time. It was like,
it's like a factory city.
I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even know why we're talking about the pandemic. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to listen to it, honestly.
Yeah, well, it's cool that you like were able to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, no, it was cool, but the pandemic, like, as much as like I can make light and point out like some minor cool details about it, fucking crippled all of us. It was a fucking nightmare. Yeah. I know kids that are like half socially now because they were in high school during the pandemic. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it fucked with all of us. It affected everybody. It touched everybody, and that's part of the reason why I think everybody's sick of talking about it. Yeah. Like I know, like Skankfest admission tapes. Like I'm gonna probably have to listen to
like 60 hot takes on the pandemic.
60? I'm gonna probably have to listen to.
It could be 1,000.
Last year, I would say that out of the 780 or so tapes that I listened to, I would say that it was probably about 800 tapes. I would say that we probably got. No, out of the 1,000 tapes I listened to, 800 of them had some sort of mention of COVID. Most of them went past the 1.5-minute mark with it. And Jesus. It's just like, burn it. You do not have a new thought about this thing that 100% of us went through.
That's why I didn't write
You don't have a new thought about
that.
Good.
Or Tinder.
And that's why you were bookable. Yeah. Like you cannot.
Yeah, it's not a new idea.
None of it is.
But fair, and that was true. Everybody was talking about the pandemic. I just worked and like drank after my shift.
Yeah.
And also my roommate wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. And like
that was kind of New York though. I don't know anybody who didn't work. Everybody was working and then and in some capacity. Do you know what I mean? It was either working or
everybody
hustling.
got a day drink on unemployment. Except me and a couple other people.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is in New York, like even when you're on unemployment, you're day drinking, you're also hustling. Like there's still something going on. You know what I mean? Like there's still at least like selling weed or something is going on.
Okay, there were some people doing that, but like we have recreational in Arizona, so like that kind of killed the weed train.
Yeah, well,
cocaine
New York didn't go
though.
legal until I moved to Texas for some reason. It's like I'm just doomed to always be in a state where I could go to jail at any moment.
Yeah. See, that's how I was in Missouri during it, and nothing changed for anyone I knew other than comedy stopped for like a year.
Right. It was like live entertainment got fucked, but
everyone just still had their job. Like
everybody was still remote.
Yeah, we were all still just working every day, and like just certain people weren't out on the roads, and you're like, that's fine.
It was like traffic was a little better.
Yeah.
Well, and then all of our great-grandparents died, so there is that part of it.
Yeah, see, mine were long dead.
That's one of the things, too, is that, like, a lot of people will be like, well, do you even know anybody who died from COVID? It's like, well, actually, I do. Yeah. So, it was pretty rough. A lot of people had a very horrible time, and it sucks that we make light of it. But also, how else are you going to survive? You know?
Yeah, what are we going to cry about it?
I mean, maybe at the time for a little bit, then you get over it. Yeah. Make a sourdough loaf. Live your life.
Bread makes it better.
Question: do you think the whole like being an army brat and like moving from place to place was like part of the reason why you are, as you say, the pivot? Because like you had to start over so many.
Yeah.
I've had to start over for all the time. Different reasons.
And also, it's not like one of those things where people were like, well, people are always like, "Oh, what made you pick Austin?" It's like I didn't pick Austin any more than I picked Berlin, Germany, or any other places the army sent me. Like I just like happened. But I've already been sort of swung around. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like I'm not like that part didn't faze me as much. I was probably more willing to move than the average person because I had moved over 24 times. But I will say that the only place that I've ever really lived where I felt like really that I was at home, that I belonged, was in New York City. Like I am a New Yorker. Like there is no like all of my impatience and my vibe and my like whatever about me, like it speaks to it. Like when I was young, my mom would tell me all the time that she knew I was going to move to New York. Yeah. So
I think I told Amy Shaker, it's like, what? I don't think Rebecca likes me. And she's like, no, she's just from fucking New York. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Amy's from Chicago, so it's like kind of different. I guess. I don't really know.
Chicago's just the white trash version of New York.
I'm pretty sure it was Amy.
I've never been to Chicago, actually.
It's just a bunch of people trying to have a New York accent.
Oh, that's funny.
Like, it's just...
I don't know. Like, I know Canadian, I know Maine, I know, like, all these different accents, but I don't know what a Chicago accent even sounds like.
It's literally just, like, this gross, weird mix between people trying to sound like they're from New York or Boston.
Are you from Chicago?
No, I'm from Missouri, but, like... So, we're right...
But fuck Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck that place, dude. But you're just, like, everyone you meet, it's just, like, you guys aren't New York. You're not cool. You're in the Midwest still. It sucks here. You're just in a big city.
It's too cold. Everybody's mad. That's why they all shooty the guns.
Yeah.
It's just too angry out there. I get it.
But speaking of shooty, like, did your parents, like, teach you how to shoot? Or, like, do you have,
I know
like...
how to shoot.
Okay. Do you hunt or anything like that?
I mean, it would be wrong for me to say that I hunt because I haven't in forever. And I have asked to go on hunts here, but nobody's really taken me up or taken me seriously, maybe.
Yeah.
And we had a weather incident.
ask
I was
Allison?
supposed to go pick hog hunting with... My dad and I were going to go hog hunting with Dean Stanfield.
Yeah.
And we had, like, a freeze. So I wasn't... It was, like, over that week or whatever. But I have a snub-nose 38. My dad took one look at where the club is located in Austin, Texas, and I think after stepping over his second homeless person said, we're going to the gun store.
Yeah.
So he took me to Central West Texas. I can't remember the name of it. But this really cool gun store, ordered the gun that I wanted, and I have the gun, but I never bought the bullets, so I have not yet shot it. So I have the firearm, but I have not. It's a beautiful firearm.
Yeah.
Like, it's exactly what I would have chosen if I was just picking something on my own, and it's what my dad wanted, so it was kind of validating. Like, okay, I do kind of know. And it's really designed for if somebody gets right up on you, you can put a slug in them and stop them. But it's not designed for any kind of like 50 pay. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't duel with it. You know what I mean?
I'm sure with handgun.
So I mean, it really is just for somebody like coming up on you. But I've been to firing ranges multiple times as an adult, but as a kid, like, I grew up around them a lot. And my uncle has a A-frame in Ahoskie, North Carolina, where they go hunting, and there's deer blinds all over the place. And my dad was one of the last people to get a legally acquired Uzi.
Oh, okay.
So he took one out to my uncle's property, took the Uzi out of my uncle's property, and they went up in the fucking blinds and there was a buck, and went to shoot it. And I think they cut the deer in half.
Yeah.
Because the rapid fire.
As you were saying, it's all like with an Uzi.
It was just it just, and the thing just fell and destroyed the meat, went right through the intestines. Like, the whole thing was just disgusting. I don't even know what they were able to salvage. It was probably mostly dog meat. Hopefully they didn't shoot it in the face and they were able to make a pretty little trophy for themselves or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been around that. Like, hunting is not, like, a weird thing. Like, in my household, we have a stuffed bear on stage at the creek, and I grew up with a pheasant above our fireplace.
I'm going to steal that bear.
Oh, you will not.
I'm going to steal that bear.
No, you will not. Nobody's going to believe that you can have that bear. That's right. You will never be able to talk anybody into taking that bear away from me.
I'm going to need... All right, I'm going to have to
get your own bear, bitch.
Yeah. You're touring. Just buy your own bear. You got this.
Exactly.
Come on.
I'll give you Eric. He's like a bear.
You're trading stuff. Nope, I'm keeping Wade.
I'm a gummy bear, dude. What are we talking about?
Imagine that in the top hat. That'd be fucking adorable.
I don't like the idea of being stuffed on stage.
I don't think so. I
I'm
think it's gonna have
anti
nearly the same effect that the bear does.
Yeah.
Do you think how creepy it would be if during Shane's
just
special
there was
just some weird white guy standing in like one space?
Yeah.
People just going, when is he gonna move?
Yeah.
Why is he there? Why isn't he addressing it?
It's like the sound guy.
Oh my god, I love the idea of somebody doing a comedy special and their set dressing is just a bunch of chubby white guys on
just
stage,
standing there.
just standing still as they can.
Yeah.
Just and never talking about it.
It's like gradually coughing every once in a while because
Stepping out of the mediocre white guy parade.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for
Yeah.
something. Maybe a simile.
Yeah.
I don't know
Awesome.
things.
Okay, so doesn't have to be comedy related or anything like that, but like, do you have like what you feel are certain survival skills that are useful, or
Survival skills.
but yeah, like
Like I have a go bag. Like you mean that kind of
like
thing?
an emergency thing, like in case of an apocalypse or whatever?
Yeah. I used to keep it in my car. It's now in the closet. But I kept it in my car in New York, and it has like a bunch of rechargers, some cash, some like those filter straws for water.
Okay.
Just
that's survival shit.
Knives, that kind of stuff. Like a shovel, army, like those the field flashlights that have like the hooks on them, so you can just hold them up straight and you can hang them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have that kind of stuff. My gun's in the go bag. No bullets though. I just have to throw it at people.
That'd be fun.
And also like a big thing. A lot of people would talk to me about why I liked Long Island City so much, or what it was that appealed to me about it. Long Island City had a very unique, as a location in New York, it was the most secure that I felt because I had the most exit strategies. I could go into Long Island, I could go into Queens, I could go into Brooklyn, I could go into Manhattan. I was right at a bridge, I was right at a tunnel, I was right on the water. So it was like all of that stuff. There was all these different ways that I could get skadoozing. You know what I mean? There was an Amtrak and a train and a subway. There was, there were all these different options. And here, it's like there's no water anywhere. Like, if I had to get away really fast, I would sit in traffic with everybody else on 35.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? So, like, it's one of those things where it's like, even though we're in this vast expanse of Texas, and then we're in this sort of, like, open area, the truth is that it would be a heck of a lot harder for me to get away from a catastrophic situation here than it would have been in Long Island City, in that area. So when we talk about survival, like a lot of times, like especially, I think military brats are particularly guilty of this, but I'll see it every once in a while, and it's almost always military people, or it's people who've been to prison. Sure. You'll see them sort of like looking around the room, and they're noting like where all the different exits are.
Yeah.
It is almost unheard of for me to walk into a space and not know how I'm going to get the fuck out of it if I have to. What my second option is going to be if the first option doesn't work, and where the bathroom is, because I have IBS, so I always know where I'm going to take a shit. I have to know that. But that need for an exit strategy, like sometimes almost makes me feel like it almost triggers like a kind of claustrophobia, if that makes sense. Like I'm not trapped, I'm here, right? But if something really horrible happens, like if we heard like a massive like air raid siren right now, and we tried to get out of this apartment complex and everybody else was trying to leave too, it would be a fucking nightmare.
Oh yeah.
So I'm also one of the people that I think would be one of the first to go. Like, I lived in Berlin, Germany for a long time. I spent a lot of time wondering, like, if my family would leave or not. Like, during World War II, like, a lot of Jewish families decided to stay, and it was obviously to their detriment, right? And some were called crazy, and they left early, and they survived. And my family, and I'm not trying to equate the Holocaust to a hurricane, but in my family, when we would go on vacation in the summer, we would always go to North Carolina to the Outer Banks. It was a family tradition, and I mean, every summer there would be an evacuation notice, or there would be some sort of thing because a hurricane was coming, and my family would never leave. So I know that my family is the kind of family that would dig their heels in and stay forever, and we would be the dead ones. Like, there's just no question there, right? Yeah. But I wonder, like, as a result of like sort of this feeling of claustrophobia, if somebody were to be like, hey, there's some shit going down, and I don't know, Texas seems like it's ground zero, I don't know if I wouldn't be like, all right, where's my cat? I gotta get the fuck out of here now. And just have everyone call me crazy, because the truth is that the folks that move first live longer, right? During an apocalypse. Right?
That's actually fair. And you remember how I told you we were going to give you an imaginary situation you had to survive? Like, I know you're already thinking about it then, and like, we were thinking which one to do. She pretty much answered it already, but like, your scenario was going to be if Mexico invaded through Texas and like got past the Alamo and was heading towards Austin.
They ain't going to shoot me, and they ain't going to shoot nobody in Austin. They're just going to throw us some fucking muskets or whatever we're shooting with and have us join. An invasion of Mexico doesn't scare me. An invasion of zombies scares me.
That was the survival scenario for the last one.
Like, I'm not worried about the wall. I'm worried about vampires. I want to worry about what if it's a monster apocalypse? Yeah. Then I have a plan. But if it's just like French people, I'm just gonna be like, cool, let's open a crate store and see what happens. I don't think that. Also, like, what is Mexico? They want to take over this? What do they want this for? This is
it was a pretend scenario.
Come on.
They were trying to get to New York to stop the Jews from appropriating our culture. I don't know.
The Jews are taking the Mexican culture?
Yeah, tunnels are our thing.
Fuck yeah, I made you laugh out loud.
I've been dying for this moment, Rebecca.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great.
Fuck
yeah,
yes.
I hadn't heard that
I won
one.
comedy.
That's
I can
great.
retire now.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about it. I just heard that there were Jews in tunnels, and I'm like, that sounds like my people's thing.
Yeah, that story is crazy.
I didn't learn any more about it.
It's not. There's not much to learn. Young kids they decided they wanted to expand. The adults said that they didn't think it was a good idea. They said we're doing it anyway, and
They started digging tunnels.
And they started digging tunnels. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Such a young boy thing. Also, I'm gonna dig a hole.
Well, yeah, but these were 20-year-olds. So it was and also they're also this is a culture where you're told you're a band at 10.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of 11-year-olds making decisions, from what I can tell. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What was weird was that it went from the Shabbat to the mikveh. The mikveh. We found out later that the mikveh is actually one that they don't use anymore, but it's where you go for purification. You go before and after you fuck. You go before and after you bleed.
Huh.
Or while you're bleeding. It's just a where men and women it's just go where you go and purify yourself so you can go back to being a dirty person. And so these tunnels are going from Shabbat to mikveh, and so it was weird. It was well, why are you going to the place where people go for purification?
Yeah.
That's odd. But then it turned out that it was no, we just figured that if we built the tunnel, then we could say we owned all of it, and then we could just take it. And it's well, I don't know that's how the rules work in New York real estate, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they do. There's a lot of exceptions to the rule there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's amazing. Do you have any questions you want to ask Rebecca?
Well, I would just like to say I'm very glad that you have a go bag because I have one, and my girl thinks I'm insane.
Really?
For it. Yeah, my dad was in the Army, very all that stuff, very much so, all the time. The second I moved out, he's go bag, how to get home, things like that. I bought an atlas whenever we moved down here because I was we gotta know how to get home.
Same. I got it in my car too.
Yeah, it's most of the time, the main roads you'd know, but so I bought an atlas, and my girl all the time is just this is insane. You just have this bag full of your little goodies that we just carry around for no good reason. And I'm like, look, hopefully we never need it, but if one day we do, you're gonna be so happy. I'm nuts.
Yeah. Also, bitch, I will outrun you with my go bag. Don't talk shit about my go bag.
Yeah.
I used to have a go bag because I was in Girl Scouts for 9-10 years, and I was also worried about zombies and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But,
should be.
And then my one of my brothers, Russell, he was in the Army, and I have a lot of military in my family, with the exception of my father because he was a dirty illegal. No, it's fine. We're safe.
He's in the
dead,
cartel
and they
army.
took him back to Mexico.
They took him back to Mexico before or after he died?
After. They actually they forked out a lot of money to fly my dad's corpse from South Carolina, I believe is where he died, back to Mexico so he could be buried in our family plot.
Oh,
which was actually
nice.
very sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up getting rid of my go bag for a number of reasons because when I was homeless and stuff and going from one mic to another, I had already gotten rid of my gun at this point, but a lot of bars check your bags and stuff.
Yeah.
Then I have to explain most of Arizona's cool with you having a pocket knife.
Oh.
That's fine. Yeah. But also
so.
I used to have lengths of rope,
Sure.
first aid kit,
Sure.
Flare gun. But I ended up selling and giving away a lot of shit. And also once I got my bipolar diagnosis, because I get sad, I don't think I should be allowed to have a handgun. Maybe a rifle. Because it's at this weight and size, it's harder. I'd have to get my toe up high enough, and
I don't know. You're pretty resourceful. I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let you have a spot above the second floor at this point. Honestly,
I am on the second
you're
floor.
a mess. Yeah, you can't go to third. It would be a disaster.
Fucking Skankfest is on the
I tried to kill myself. Now I'm just paralyzed from the neck down. You guys deal with this, right? Yeah. Okay.
I think I traumatized this poor boy at Skankfest.
I'm sure you did. What'd you do to him?
It was after the first naked roast I did, but I was sitting there and I'm it's I kind of want to go out on top. It's all I can't top this moment. I want to end my life on a high note. It's how upset would you be if I jumped off the side of this? And he's are you serious? He's you're actually going to kill yourself? And I'm yeah, cover for me so nobody tries to stop me. And he's all what? And I'm I'm just fucking with you, kid. It's I'm going to go get a beer. But it is kind of fun to fuck with people a little bit like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't messed
People do a lot of mushrooms at that festival. I'm not really sure we should be taunting each other with mortality.
That is true. Also, I picked the wrong time to do acid because it kicked in right when Violet and Jay walked in to the green room. And,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm afraid of clowns.
would 100% never do acid at a fucking festival. What is wrong with you?
I can't do shrooms at a festival because it makes me antisocial.
Yeah, don't do that either.
I don't know. It's fun.
No acid. Yeah, until Violent J walks in and suddenly you're in the
I didn't
middle
know
of...
Violet J was going to walk in.
Nobody did. That's the whole thing. It's a festival.
That does feel the most on par
not
for
supposed to-
Skankfest ever, though.
You're not supposed to know everything that's going to happen at a festival if it's
That's
cool.
fair. But, like, also stories and memories.
Yeah, I know. It's just...
But I always wait till the last day to do my drugs at Skankfest.
I don't really want anyone to have like a fear and loathing moment while they're there. You know what I mean? Like,
That is fair.
it's
Also,
just
drink
it
water.
needs to be chill. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, that's one thing I learned, like, from the first time. It's all like, yeah, I need to drink more water while I'm
Well,
here.
you're in the desert, so
Yeah, but also I'm
you
from
can't
the desert,
get
so
any water out of the air like you can here.
that is true. I hate the humidity here so much.
It's pretty rough.
Like, I was sitting there and I'm like, used to bitch about the dry heat, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And then, like, I moved here during the summer, and I'm like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
I'd, like, have to take cold showers before I'd head over to the mics.
Yep.
Go, like, wipe my titties underneath because they're
That's
sweating.
the same in New York. I mean, because New York's humid too. So when it does get hot, it's humid.
I was there for one day
And we
in
would
November.
have. I mean, there were times when like I would literally just go upstairs and grab towels and bring them downstairs and be like, "You cannot go on stage right now. You look like it was raining outside, and it was not raining outside."
Yep.
There. Yeah. So I don't have a gun anymore because suicidal thoughts.
That's probably smart.
I do miss my bows though, because
Like bow and arrow.
yeah, like everybody in my family owns a gun except for me at this point. I used to own
I mean,
several.
I've never known anyone who's shot themselves in an archery. I've never known anyone to die in an archery accident. So I feel like you can own a crossbow if you want.
Yeah, I'm glad I wear glasses though, because one time, like, if you don't change your strings regularly, like, they can snap. And that happened, and it whipped me across the face.
Ooh.
And, like, the scar healed.
Just like a little
here.
line.
Yeah, and, like, it hit my glasses, but, like...
But it could have been an eyeball.
Like, it could have lacerated
For
the
sure,
eyeball, and I don't want
yeah.
to be the fourth person in my family to have a glass eye.
My grandfather had a glass eye, and he started 2 physics departments at 2 different universities.
Nice.
So you don't need 2 eyeballs.
Yeah.
You just
That
need
is
him
true.
for baseball. He was canceled from the Yankees, but
I was like, aw.
physics.
Yeah.
One of my...
Turns out if you're really smart, life is fine. It's-
Not for everybody.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
lot of smart people who fucked it up, man.
That's fair. That's fair.
Oh, genius is torture.
So
I
actually,
wouldn't know.
None of us would, really.
This is a messed up story about, like, one of my martial arts instructors. Her family's from Germany, and her parents, her dad's dad or his grandfather was in charge of the black people at the concentration camps, and he had a glass eyeball. But, like, he'd have them all sitting in the room, and, like, if he had to go, he'd take his glass eyeball out, put it on the table, and say, he's like, I can see everything you're doing. And then he'd leave.
That's not how glass eyeballs work. Just in case anyone wants to know.
Like,
this
I
guy
know
was
that's not
very
how it
likely
works.
not telling the truth.
Yeah. I think he was
I just
insane.
think it's... No, it is insane, but
We
I still
tried.
think it's funny.
When my grandpa died, my brother tried to get his glass eye turned into a ring.
Oh, yeah?
And it was just too fragile. They couldn't figure out how to do it. I was so bummed because I
Yeah.
thought that would be so cool to just be like, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
It'd be great.
I want to do that with the tooth I inherited, but I gotta get it back from my sister.
You inherited a tooth?
My mom punched a tooth out of some guy's mouth at a family reunion.
Oh, hand-me-downs are so sweet.
She gave it to me for my 15th birthday.
That's nice.
And the tooth is my birthright. That fucking cunt stole it from me. Not important. I'm not mad.
She sounds mad.
A little bit.
I'm not fucking mad! Just kidding. Well, is there anything you wanted to ask anybody? Or you get...
No, I don't think so. I think we had quite a lovely podcast.
Yeah, no,
today.
this was cool. And you were interesting, so...
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't feel the need to talk that much.
Good.
Which is actually a relief. I'm very low energy today. I woke up at 1 a.m.
You woke up at 1? What time did you go to bed?
I don't remember. I've been on and off sick, like, since
Oh,
Thursday.
yeah, you told me your sleep schedule's fucked up.
Yeah, I fucked it up hardcore, and, like, I was trying... Oh, also, I restarted my drinking break again. So, like, normally the first 24 to 48 hours, I can't sleep. So, there might be another 24 hours of this bullshit.
Yeah. Well, if you woke up at 1 a.m., you'll probably start to get tired.
Yeah, I do have Benadryl actually, so I'm going to take one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I drank all my NyQuil.
Well, definitely take some Benadryl and see if you can lure yourself into a coma.
Yeah. And then this is gonna air March 1st.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to plug for Creek in the Cave for March?
No. General admission tickets go on sale for Skankfest on the 20th of April. And we will have day passes available at that time as well. And we're expecting everything to sell out pretty quick. So mark your calendars.
Yay.
Awesome.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, cool. Well, it was so lovely having you on this. Thank you for coming again.
Of course.
Hey. And also I forgot, this production is produced by the Birthday Boy podcast. So check out their podcast too. And I'm normally better at
Plugging.
Plugging shit.
Yeah.
And I'm tired. I'll plug next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Bye, everybody.